welcome to our webinar, from traffic to revenue, how paid acquisition teams design the path after the click. We're going to give folks a minute or two to roll in, and then we will kick us off right away. We have a couple of folks joining. And again, if you're coming in, please feel free to drop any questions in the chat for our guests, and we'll get the ball rolling very, very soon. Excellent. We are at 6:01, so let's get this show on the road. Hello and welcome again to our webinar, From Traffic to Revenue, how paid acquisition teams design a path after the click. I'm excited to be joined by our fabulous guests. Just to go quickly around our virtual room, we have Jacob Rushfinn from Botsi. We have Andrey Shakhtin from FunnelFox, Patrick Stuart-Constant, Sociaaal, Mike Gadd from Singular, Elise Zareie from Lingokids. We have an all-star panel today that I'm excited to host and kick things off with. So, of course, before we get the ball rolling, this is hosted by us, Rocketship HQ and FunnelFox. So, Andrey, if you want to take a moment to tell us about FunnelFox, for making this webinar possible, please go for it. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. Just like a brief overview of FunnelFox. FunnelFox is a platform for building and launching funnels. It includes funnel builder, agentic funnel builder, and payment infrastructure that helps app developers to scale on web without any hassle with web payments.
Excellent. And your co-hosts are us. I'm Shamanth, CEO of Rocketship HQ. We are a creator-driven performance agency making hundreds of ads per month for a number of our customers. So hit us up if you are looking to scale your creative production. But for now, let's put the spotlight on our fabulous guests. Let's love to hear from you all. What's one shift that you've seen in the last 12 months or so that you feel most teams haven't priced in yet? Mike, would you like to get us going?
Yeah, sure. I think the big thing we're seeing is like most teams are still optimizing for sort of install cost or trial volume, or looking at like, oh, how many like free trials we've been able to sort of turn into paid subscription. But actually, the real bottleneck is kind of keeping users through that first paid cycle. So actually, it's the first renewal that is the interesting thing that people are trying to generate. It's getting harder because we see users are actively reducing total subscription spend across all the categories. And so they're not adding more, they're consolidating and canceling. So that sort of actually first instance is really important. That first payment instance is what we're seeing people track more.
For sure. Patrick, what are you noticing?
I'm noticing that the falling costs of creative production continues to produce an incredible opportunity. We started being full AI creatives 2 years ago when they were still pretty bad. And they started getting good 18 months ago, and we started taking off. And then, since the last year, it's been great and just getting better each month. And so, it's honestly a huge driver for any app studio.
Yeah, and I still keep hearing that, AI creators are terrible. I think bad AI creators are terrible. The good ones aren't yet priced in. So, Andrey, what are you noticing?
Yeah, for sure. It's like massive shift to web-based monetization that includes both like web to app, where you like run traffic on the web funnel and sell subscription on web, or app to web that you can integrate like web payments inside your app for the US market. So both trends looks very strong, especially web to app. We recently publish a report about these trends and see that its adoption is increasing more and more over year.
Yeah, and I've seen some apps that basically have stopped using the app flow, that they are basically using only the web to app just now. Jacob, how about yourself?
Yeah, most of my focus is kind of post-acquisition, and so I really see that personalization making a huge difference. And this is, it used to be all fake personalization, kind of pretend personalization. Now you can actually create, real personalized experiences in the funnel, post paywall, Gen AI to create, real unique experiences, and of course, like offers to the right user. So showing this right offer can be pretty meaningful difference in monetization. And then I think I've seen the largest apps figure this out. Like we see Tinder creating dynamic paywalls, different paywalls for different users. And so this personalization from, first touch point all the way kind of deeper experiences, I think makes a big difference.
Yeah, and we've always had the data. It sounds like it's become a lot easier to use that data to personalize journeys, especially with the help of AI. Elise, how about yourself? What are you noticing?
I would say in the last year, web funnels and web to apps have been a big focus, and it went from being a side experiment to a big acquisition engine. It only works if you treat it like one and not just a side project you're doing an hour a week. I think it's one where the barrier of entry has never been, lower. It's easier and easier to do web to app, but you still need dedicated ownership. You still need to run strong experiments and not just try it once and then discard it. So I think that's been something I've observed across different teams on subscription apps.
Yeah, and it seems easy and it's actually hard. And for those of you who are curious, Elise and Patrick, you're both on my podcast, Intelligent Artifice. So please check out, everything what they've just said, but in a lot more detail. So please definitely feel free to check that out. Now, Andrey, you guys had a report recently, basically saying, about 82% of top grossing apps now route their payments outside the store, which is a massive growth over the last year. What's driving that, and what sort of apps do you see might just be moving too late?
So we did research the market in terms of like web funnels and web-based monetization, and found that the first thing is that drives that growth is attribution, because there is no like a DeFi restriction that Apple introduced 5 years ago, and you can use pixel-based and conversion API-based attribution, which means that you can get immediately signals about the purchase and optimize your campaigns with quickly and with less budget. You can literally understand what the creative converts better or worse. Also, there is conversion rates also is higher just because of flexibility of the flow, and it's the whole funnel from ad creative to purchase is more holistic, because there is no generic step with the app install, and user just can continue engaging with the quiz right after click on ad creatives, which increase the conversion rate very well. And also there's a less commission, so you pay 2-5% payment commission to payment providers instead of 30% on scale to App Store. So yeah, this is the most main factors that drive this.
For sure, lots of different factors, lower costs, more opportunity for customization, and certainly, all makes sense. And Mike, what from a measurement perspective, what has changed as more teams have gone off stores?
I think with more teams going off stores, you've got a big challenge around like different platforms. So the fact that you were previously looking maybe at just like app information and everything's on one platform, but now you're looking at like web and app as well. What we've worked with customers is like making sure that you have everything going through like as in if it looks like an app purchase, for example. So it means you're able to better optimize your campaigns. You'll be able to look at all your revenue in one place. And that really enables people to be able to optimize more effectively, and also it helps to give you accurate ROI and LTV calculations as well. One of the biggest challenges people get to is they like see their their spend and what they're spending on their ads on different platforms, and they can't reconcile that at all to like where the payments are coming in, what the revenue's coming in as. So having a sort of strong way of sort of decoding that, being able to sort that is really important. And then finally is like just we see that like a lot of customers don't have it, or at the start maybe don't have a strong user ID implementation. So if you have a strong user ID, that means you can knit all these things together and you can measure everything in a sort of total view. Whereas if you don't have that, then you're seeing a device on a web, a device on an app, etc., and you can't match them together. So in terms of there's lots of rich measurement that you can see, but there's lots of sort of pitfalls that you can fall down where you sort of lose that measurement and lose that insight.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, there's one paradigm on the web, one on mobile. You really need to put in the effort to marry them, because otherwise you're just going to have two very different systems of reporting that will be a mess if you're not very careful.
Exactly. We call it platform hell, singular. So basically you get stuck in platform hell, you can't make sense of what's going on, and it's key to try and find a way to get out of that.
For sure. Yeah, to switch gears a bit, right? I know we talked briefly about creative. Elise, to lob the ball over to you. For a lot of products right now, there's just like an infinite number of creative directions they can go in. So what's your typical approach for figuring out what's the kind of bet that you want to start with? What's the kind of bet that you want to take up front?
I would say I really like this question because there's a kind of like a classic answer, which I will share. But I think this year I've been seeing a lot of new approaches for creative that are not the classic route. So to me, the classic route, I wouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. I would look at what competitors do creatively in your vertical. I would look at top grossing apps that are doing really well, even if they're not exactly your vertical. And I would try to lift and shift their winning formats to your app to get started. So what that means is taking top creatives in the ad library on Meta, for example, and see how you can adapt them to your specific messaging. Your audience will kind of like dictate the kind of creatives you're picking and the placement. So for example, if you have an older audience, it will skew towards statics. If you have a younger audience, it will skew towards reels, quick videos without much edit, very organic looking, because you can't really convert someone who's 50 plus with some Gen Z, like type creatives, and the opposite is also true. Something a bit harsh, I would say, is chances are when you first get started, no one will care about all the benefits of your product, even if you're very proud of it. And even if you want to share them with the world, I think it works better, at least in the beginning, when you focus on a specific persona, a specific problem that your app comes as a solution and solves, rather than just talking about all the benefits. And once you get some momentum, iterate. Usually split your creatives with brand new, fresh concepts and iterations. So this is kind of like the classic approach. And what I've been seeing in this last year is people sourcing more organic creatives from TikTok directly and from creators directly, and they kind of let creators dictate ideas and come up with creative directions themselves, and then they take those creative direction and use it in paid and use it in their marketing. So it's something that's a bit newer. It doesn't work for every single vertical, but I find it quite interesting because it just adds a lot more variety to ideas, and it's fresher when the audience themselves imagine how to sell your app than your creative team.
Yeah. And I think find interesting in what you said is the very different perspectives. One, you said, hey, look at TikTok creators and see what you can borrow. But on the other hand, you're like, look at what's working and what your competitors are doing and see if you can repurpose that. It's very interesting because one way you're mitigating the risk by taking something that's proven. The other way with TikTok, you're also taking something that's proven. Really, you're not reinventing the wheel. And that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, and I think as you scale, I would really encourage to be more adventurous with your creatives and push the envelope more. But when you first start, you don't want to be making hundreds of creatives that will flop. You want to get something that will work from your first rounds of creative testing, which is why I wouldn't necessarily reinvent the wheel when you first start.
For sure. And Patrick, you spoke briefly about how you guys have scaled creative quite dramatically. And talk to us about how you decide about which bets to take when you can basically make infinite numbers of creatives.
Yeah, the way I see it is I see creatives as a search space, and the old-fashioned way of making a few creatives a month, a few dozen creatives a month, you'd only like search tiny bits of a search space. And the idea is you want to cover as much of a search space as possible. And there are like two implications of this. One is you really want creative diversity. So you don't want endless variations of the same creative, otherwise you're always in the same little spot with 100 attempts, but in the same part of a search space. And as we scale up, you want to be trying lots of different areas. And when one looks promising, that's when you want to do like lots of variations, like creative, really explore that part of a search space fully. And I think that's sort of how we navigate scaling up our creative production. At the moment, we're at 4,000 video ads a month, scaling up to 10,000 within the next couple, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a huge number. But what I'm hearing you say is you're not making 4,000 that look mostly similar.
No.
You want to have those attack very different parts of the search space, as you said, right?
Yeah.
And as a follow-up to that, right? So if something's working, how much are you sort of iterating on what's working, which is to say, hey, can we make different visual hooks? Can we add different hooks? Versus let's just go to a completely different area of the search space.
So we're constantly doing both in parallel, and we continue doing variations of one ad, trying to change it as much as possible, but fundamentally doing variations of it until it stops working. And in the meantime, we have been exploring other parts of a search space, and we have been sort of basically stockpiling all these different, basically brand new marketing angles or brand new concepts. And then we'll start doing more variations of the next one once one has run out.
Yeah. And you said you're at 4,000, you're on your way to 10,000. What does that mean in terms of how your team has changed or grown?
Yeah, I think that's classic Jevons paradox. It's the cheaper something is, the more you consume it. And so the creative team is actually our fastest. It's one of the teams where we use AI the most, and it's also the fastest growing team. We've sort of doubled the size of a company over the last few months, and we've tripled the size of a creative team. And that's because there's a lot of things you can automate with AI, but fundamentally, ads which are like truly creative, original, with like fresh ideas, those are like these new concepts in the search space, which will perform really nicely. And so we've needed much more human creativity as we've scaled up the number of ads.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this. And also, that's been our experience too. Our creative team's grown 2x just because as we have more throughput, we need more humans to manage the creative process. Elise, what are you seeing in terms of how AI is impacting the staffing of the teams?
So I think it is an amazing help for like repetitive tasks. like resizing, localizing, generating B-roll, drafting copy, like all the things that are not necessarily the concept itself, but are, for example, the small iterations and the adaptation. That's one side of it where it's been extremely helpful. And the other side, which I love, is the creative analysis aspect, because when you have huge creative volume, you want to understand what's working, what's not working, where do you have blind spots. And I have done it manually before AI. It's super time consuming. So just being able to do it with a tool has been amazing, because you can just speed up your creative cycles where you communicate with creative strategists and designers. Where I think we need the human eye is for taste, judgment, and quality control. It's very easy to produce like high number of, like AI, not slop, but, like things that are not super tasteful, things are uncanny valley. Everyone can make a static with AI now. Everyone can make 1,000 statics with AI, but what is human, what feels good, what will convert and sell your app? I think this is where you need the human eyes. So I think it doesn't mean a smaller creative team. It just means that it shifts the workload to more of that creative direction aspect rather than that execution.
Yeah, 100%. And I also like that you emphasized sourcing of the assets, the B-roll, the raw assets, because AI can do a great job of that, but that's not a finished ad. And I've seen a lot of people talk about, oh, this makes ads completely autonomously, and the results are not great. Even with models looking very, very realistic, you still need a lot of human eyes. And Elise, as you said, you need the taste to really understand what to run. I think that's very, very true. Again, to switch gears a bit to the funnel side of things, Elise, and just staying with you for now, with web funnels, right? So a lot of teams try web funnels. Maybe they are like, okay, the early numbers are not great. Let's just kill this, right? So what are some of the things that separate the teams that really make it work versus the ones that are like, all right, I'm just going to give up now?
I think, it's very cheesy to say, but it's ownership and troubleshooting. With web funnels, you have so many more things that can go wrong. It's not just, like your creative, your app store, your app. You have different pages, you have the payment, you have the sign up, you have even the setup of the campaign if you're running it through Meta, for example. So I think teams that will kind of give up early will run into a problem, won't see the data populating, won't see it working, and then they won't necessarily try to investigate every single part. So this is why, back to my first point, it's easier to run web funnels now, but you still need that dedication, and you still need people that will dig into what's wrong and not offload it to other teams when it gets a bit, crazy or technical. And it's easier said than done for sure. But I think winning teams or people that make it work are people that troubleshoot and constantly try to improve small parts of the funnel and small parts of the flow to improve numbers.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what you said about AI creative, because it seems easy. If you were to read LinkedIn, you're like, yes, this is easy. Web funnels, yeah, creative. But ultimately, there's just so many parts to this that you need to get right. Yeah. And Mike, what are you noticing as you work with a lot of your customers?
So I think one thing is you've got so many different user flows that you can go down, whether it's what source you're coming from, are you going to go hit a landing page, or are you going straight from a web ad to the store or something like that. So that's like, there's these initial sort of questions that marketers have got to ask themselves in terms of how they want to sort of funnel users towards actually downloading an app and then signing up for a subscription, etc. And then also like how you're going to measure that whole thing. We get a lot of people who are like, oh, we've got web to app from a landing page, like then it's going down and someone's downloading the app. But like, we have no idea how someone's getting to the landing page because Google Analytics isn't telling us that. And we can't put the two together. So actually thinking about that full funnel measurement of like, how do you go through each stage, measure each step, know where someone originally came from. And then again, as I said earlier, like get out of platform hell, so you know actually where that revenue came from, and be able to type all of that back, it's not a completely straightforward flow. And so it does need probably an expert to talk you through it. If you're just going straight off on your own, it's not the easiest thing to implement straight away. And then also making sure that you can measure all the way along before you suddenly scale up. You don't want to start sort of spending loads of money on web ads if you haven't got all your measurement in place and you're very confident that it's working well.
Yeah, 100%. You need the conviction that your money is well invested. And, I would also add, you either need an expert, or like Elise said, you need to invest a lot of time and effort into understanding the different pieces and what's changing. Yeah.
I would also add that we saw there was strong correlation between number of iterations and pace of the iterations. The quicker iterations a team does, and the more iterations they do, the more probability that they will grow in terms of like revenue.
Yeah,
so
and I recollect this was a graph I noticed that your team put out, Andrey. I don't know if you want to talk about that and what you guys learned from that.
Yeah, it's dependency over like number of funnels that they launch and the volume of revenue. So we saw the relation between this.
There's a very, very direct relationship. And if I might ask for a follow-up, what do you see are the most important types of tests that are run by teams that test a lot? What are the most important types that you notice?
So basically, you need to optimize the whole funnel and to find the right combination between your audience. It's like mostly it's on ad creatives, your storytelling, and it's onboarding flow and monetization. So the three parameters you need to find the right combination for right segments. And so you need to iterate with these three parameters simultaneously, basically.
For sure. Yeah. And staying with you, are there teams that shouldn't try web funnels? Are there teams or situations where it is a bad idea?
I think that like the most underestimated thing is the payments, because payments part is it's a completely different thing that you have in App Store. You need to take care of like refunds, chargebacks, and payment optimization to get the highest payments acceptance rate. And it's tough. It's like the rabbit hole that could be missed at the very beginning. Yeah, and I think it's it has a biggest impact on conversion rate and funnel performance, and it's a complex thing to build the whole thing. So my suggestion here is like not try to build payment stack on your own. So it's completely different.
Right. So if you try to DIY everything, you might just find yourself in a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Especially with the payment things, that that could be a problem. Yeah. And Jacob, what are you noticing in terms of folks that maybe shouldn't be trying web funnels?
Yeah, I think that one, it really starts to make a lot more sense once you're above $1 million in revenue and you're past the 15% commission on Apple. This is when kind of the proceeds can kind of start to pay off a lot more. That's usually also a good bar in terms of scale, in terms of like paid marketing scale, because you probably need to be okay losing like 10K or 20K a month on paid ads while you're testing and optimizing first. Like to their points, like you need to iterate and you have to assume, maybe the first few months you're not going to get it right and you're not going to be profitable. And so this means that you have to have some type of larger margin. You have to have a growing business at a minimum level of scale before you can invest that learning period. And so I think that a lot of it, because it's all driven by paid traffic, right? If you're having organic growth, like you're probably not investing in paid marketing, you're probably doing fine. you don't have kind of the ROAS constraints. And so it's really, okay, are we above the 15% commission to 30%? We have the decent enough level of paid scale to kind of lose money while we're in that learning phase.
Yeah. And I tell people this is a lot like DSPs in some sense, that there is going to be a learning phase. Out of curiosity, in that learning phase, what would you say are some of the more common mistakes you see people make? And are there ways that apps could accelerate that learning phase in your experience?
Yeah, so there's the two, well, I think there's probably like 3 elements of the learning phase. There's the acquisition side, like are your campaigns different in kind of what's successful to driving towards a web funnel? I can't speak to the different kind of setup on the paid side as much. I think everybody else can probably speak to that better than me. But then there's the actual funnel of the onboarding flow. Like, can you sell the product successfully? Like, a lot of times you're moving from app to web. Like, in your app, you can easily show the value and the aha moment in your product because it's the product. Or on web, it's like you're still often directing people into the app. So how do you sell the product well? Probably to start, like, look at other competitors. And I think we all hate saying just copy somebody else to start, but oftentimes this is really what you need to do, and then try to differentiate and iterate beyond just copying to kind of build your own value. And then there's the paywall and kind of monetization tactics. Again, figure out the paywall and monetization tactics that's working decently for other similar apps. And so looking at what's working well in the market is usually the fastest place to start. If you have a long onboarding funnel, you kind of, you're in health and wellness, education category in your app today, you probably do. A lot of times taking that as a V1 into web will work all right. You've already proven that this kind of converts decently. And then a lot of times it's how do we improve and iterate faster on web with this funnel to kind of convert, motivate, and sell the product better. And then you often iterate on kind of the monetization, the different lengths of products, the value of the products usually is different on web.
Yeah, and this basically echoes what Elise, you said earlier, in that there's just so many moving parts, and that's what's contributing to the learning phase. You can short circuit it